Guys, welcome into my official top 5 worst teams of 2022. Now guys, of course, these are all going to be FBS teams. It's just my ranking. It's not based off of anything. Just my opinion, the top 5 worst college football FBS teams. Let's get right into it, starting with number 5. And guys, it's going to be Nevada. Yes. So unfortunate looking at their season. They start off on a roll. They get a nice road win at New Mexico State. How about a home win over Texas State, 38-14? But the trouble starts week number 3 against an FCS school, giving up 51 points. And it's inexcusable. There's no excuse for something like that. They have the Iowa game. They get shut out. They get shellacked by Air Force. They lose a close one to Colorado State. All right, that's respectable. I'll respect a close loss to Colorado State. At Hawaii, they get mauled. They lose to San Diego State, only score 7 points. They put up a decent performance at San Jose State, but lose. They get trounced at home by Boise. They get destroyed by Fresno. And then they lose at a bad UNLV team. And they finish 2-10, but more importantly, 0-8 in the Mountain West. It is historic. Their worst game of the season, I'm going to say it's against the FCS school, Incarnate Word, even though they were actually really good even for an FCS school. 55 points, it's horrible. The receiver, you're allowing 260 yards to an FCS receiver. Guys, fun fact about that quarterback, Scott Jr., that was the highest graded quarterback by PFF according to either the FBS or FCS football. So he's good. Now looking at Nevada and their quarterback, Nate Cox, A+ name, F- grade. Senior, didn't throw for any yards outside the top 100. 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR. I think he's older than his QBR. I think he's 29. I'm kidding. He's not 29. At least I hope he's not 29. Overall, just looking at Nevada's team, averaging under 20 points. And guys, one of the things you'll know with these really bad teams, they have horrific third down percentage conversion rates. 35% for Nevada. It's just woeful, but it only gets worse from here. They're only number 5. Moving down to number 4, it is the worst offense pound for pound in college football. It is New Mexico. Let's take a look at their season. They start at home against an FCS team, Maine. All right, they win 41-0. You know what? That's impressive. We will say that's a nice win. They receive a few AP votes. All right, they're happy. They get a huge home game versus Boise State. Biggest game on campus history. And they lose 31-14. But they come back to beat UTEP. So at this point, they're 2-1. They're hopeful. Maybe if they win out, they can make the playoff. They got a big game at LSU. And they lose 38-0. You know what? That's a decent defensive performance, only allowing 38 points. You lose to UNLV. That's not going to help anyone. You end up losing to Wyoming at home, allowing 27 points at New Mexico State. I mean, look at this team. Guys, so overall, their offense, let's take a look at their offense. I think that's the last 8 games. 0 points, 20 points, 14 points, 9 points, 9 points. Their kicker got to work out. 10 points, 3 points, 10 points. And then the Mona Lisa. They get shut out by Colorado State on Black Friday. And they also finish 0-10. So they come in at number 4. They have a horrifically bad offense. You can take a look at their worst performance of the year. A 17-0 loss. It's woeful. The quarterback, 27 pass attempts, 62 yards. Grotesque. I don't know how that happens, folks. I have no clue. You can take a look. Their starting quarterback, Miles Kendrick, 3 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's a senior, so you would think there's a little veteran experience there, but no. Maybe he'll be in the transfer portal. Maybe Texas A&M can snatch him out of the portal and he'll be their starting quarterback. Guys, look at their running backs. None of their running backs, I guess one of their running backs who had 7 total carries averaged a decent yards, but like 4.6, 4.2. Obviously, the quarterback's going to have nothing. Total touchdowns. Their leader in rushing touchdowns with a grand total of 3 was their quarterback and a backup running back who had 40 carries for 142 yards. My goodness. And then the receivers, their quote-unquote leading receiver, a whopping 312 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. They had 3 total receiving touchdowns as a team. This is the worst offense in college football this year. They scored 13 points. Their third down conversion percentage, oh my God, 22%. Their fourth down was 28%. You're looking at the worst offense. This is it. This is the worst offense on the FBS level. You're not going to see a worse offense than this. They come in at number 4. New Mexico, the worst teams in college football. We move to number 3, and guys, it's Florida International. Now, I will say Florida International, according to ESPN FPI, is the worst team, but they're number 3 on my list. I will explain why. You take a look at, they start with a thrilling overtime comeback win over Bryant University. And guys, I had to look up, I think Bryant, who is an FCS school, finished 4-7. So they had to come back against a 4-7 FCS school. We're off to a thrilling start. They get crushed by Texas State on the road. And then they suffer the worst loss of the year. This is the highest margin, 73-0. 73 points, the difference there. They come back and they beat New Mexico State. They lose to UConn 33-12. Honestly, that's a good... See, this is why they can't be my worst team. Losing by only 20 points to UTSA is not horrible. And then they beat Charlotte on the road. They also beat Louisiana Tech. They're on a roll. Double overtime. They go for 2. Congratulations, 42-34. And then 3 games in a row. My God. 52-14, 52-7, 40-6. And then they show some fight against Middle Tennessee State when they were 20-point underdogs. And they lose 33-28. So they finish 4-8. You can take a look at their quarterback, Grayson James, who is a sophomore. 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, pretty standard stuff at this point. Overall, their offense, again, it's the third down conversion percent. It's below 30%. But Florida International, because they actually did go 4-8, for me, they can't be the worst team in FBS, just my opinion. I have them at number 3. Moving to number 2, it is the total rebuild for Deion Sanders. It's Colorado. And guys, you take a look, they start with a home game versus TCU. Nobody thought that TCU was going to, go undefeated. Or I guess they're not undefeated anymore, but they are in the playoff. They lose 38-13. Not a horrible performance looking back on it. Honestly, a really tough non-conference schedule. So they have TCU, Air Force, and at Air Force, at Minnesota. That is not an easy non-conference schedule. Then they get UCLA at home. They get crushed. At Arizona, they get annihilated. They beat Cal after their bye week in overtime for their 1 win of the season. They get just destroyed by Oregon State. They play well against Arizona State. And then they just face the gauntlet of gauntlets, Oregon, USC, Washington, and Utah. Now, they were 30-point underdogs in every one of these games. And I do not think they covered any one of them. I remember talking about the Utah game when Utah was 30-point road favorites, and I was like, I got to pick Utah because they just can't cover. They've been 30-point underdogs 3 straight weeks. They can't cover. And then they don't cover against Utah at home either. They give up a 60-burger, and Utah, I think, almost had like 800 total yards of offense in that game. So this team, just horrific. I would say their worst performance was the second to last week versus Washington. They lost by 47 total points. And you can see Washington didn't even do that much on offense, but they still score 54 points, not even trying. The quarterback, JT Strout, he's going to be in the transfer portal. Basically, all these kids are going to be in the transfer portal. This team was so bad. Deion Sanders gets on campus, and his first address to the team, it's like, hey, guys, you got to leave. We're clearing out. We're clearing room. It's not going to happen, and it is terrible. So these guys just, it is unfortunate for Colorado. Actually, you know what? Colorado should be extremely happy right now. They got Deion Sanders. They're going to at least have a really, really hyped up. That's probably the best case scenario for Colorado. Like, you can get Deion Sanders, or you can get some retread, or like some weird 33-year-old young offensive coordinator from Arizona, and he'll go like 10-27, and you'll fire him after year 3 or something. So Deion Sanders, definitely a shot in the arm, and they're certainly going to, I'm sure, get Travis Hunter and get some legitimate talent there. But guys, when it comes to the worst team, pound for pound, at the FBS level in college football in 2022, it's got to be UMass. It just has. I mean, it's so sad. UMass is at the point where if we had relegation, I mean, they got to go. It's like 5 straight years. They're not even close. So they finish 1-11. They are an independent. They start at Tulane. Nobody thought Tulane was going to be that good, early in the season. They get crushed. They get annihilated by Toledo. They're able to beat Stony Brook, the FCS school, 20-3. They get shut out by Temple. Close loss to Eastern Michigan. Liberty, I mean, you can see this non-conference schedule. It's not challenging. They actually almost beat Arkansas State. The Texas A&M game, the worst game of the year, one of the worst games of the year, the Texas A&M game, and then they get trounced by a bad Army team to finish 1-11. Brady Olson, possibly the worst quarterback of the year, 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a QBR below the legal drinking age, folks. What's going on with that? The running game, none of the top running backs averaged more than 4 yards per carry. I mean, their number one running back, 3.8 yards, 3 touchdowns. It is horrific. Overall, they average 12.5 points, and you can see the third down efficiency, 28%. It is disgusting. Again, with UMass at this point, it's getting so bad. I mean, I can pull up their football reference page and look like the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, this team, they struggled to win 3 games, When it comes to the top 5 worst teams for me, it's going to be number 5, Nevada, number 4, New Mexico, number 3, Florida International, number 2, Colorado, and number 1, it is going to be UMass. So guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.